I believe this in my heart and in my head, and I always will. You were not supposed to survive that day.
No.
Correct. That's exactly right.
And this was, remember, this was less than 2 years after the Gulf of Tonkin incident. So the intention was to create the same thing in the Mediterranean, was to basically start the regional war that Satan Yahoo Milikowski, as we call him, is attempting to do right now. We see what's going on with Iran. Again, when you live this long and you are this aware, you work for the NSA, you know, you see this stuff coming 1,000 times faster than anybody else does. You're like, oh, I know what they're doing. I see what you're trying to do here. And to me, your story, if there's anybody out there, I mean, I could think of a lot of people that have had their platforms that they've used to try to suppress this message, but I come back to the recent events at the Turning Point USA event in Arizona, where this young man named Mickey Rudd, and he is actually going to be a guest with me on my solo show, I believe, in a week or two.
Good.
And he decided, again, this is somebody who, I mean, frankly, you could be his great grandfather. He's so young. I think he's maybe 20 years old. And he stood up there and he did this to who I believe is the absolute worst of the worst when it comes to the liaisons of the state of Israel. And that, of course, is, well, you know, Jen, Lil Ben Shapiro, as we like to call him.
That's one.
Cited during your speech truth as the most important tenet of American conservatism. Why, therefore, did you call irrelevant the Israeli attack in 1967 on the USS Liberty, which left dozens of American servicemen dead and hundreds wounded?
Let me just say right off the bat before we listen to him speak, that freaking smirk that he has on his face, I'd like for him to smirk in your presence and see what happens. Yeah. You may be an older gentleman, but I bet you could still knock his head off if you had to.
Yeah.
And
Peter, I could take Ben Shapiro. Okay?
That's true too. Fair enough. Fair enough.
So what I actually said is that if we're looking at modern Israeli-American relations, looking at an attack that happened mistakenly by multiple Navy reports, multiple Israeli reports, and all available evidence, and using that attack in order to undermine today's relations between Israel and America, that's irrelevant. As irrelevant as it would be to cite a piece of evidence from World War II or from 1776 to define America's relations with, for example, Great Britain or Germany today. That does not mean that the attack wasn't horrible for the Americans involved, that it wasn't bloody and terrible. The Israeli government paid reparations to the people who were killed. If you look at—
They did? They did? Moe, did you know of people getting reparations?
That's why I'm so successful today. I got $500 from the U.S. government.
That's what they gave you, really?
Yep.
That's what it was?
And made me sign a disclosure that I would never file any suits or whatever.
Right. And they made you sign a non-disclosure for $500.
Yeah.
Unreal.
My buddy Jimmy refused the 500, and they sent him $27,000.
Wow. Well, I guess they assumed that would keep him quiet.
I guess.
Military record of what happened on the USS Liberty. It was clearly a mistaken and tragic attack. The people who frequently cite the USS Liberty, however, are not talking about the specifics of the USS Liberty. I suspect that the vast majority of people who bring this up are doing so in order to suggest that Israel deliberately attacked an American ship because Israel deliberately wants to harm America. It is connected generally with a larger point. I wonder if that's your point.
If the truth matters, then the Israeli government must be held accountable for that attack. The American flag was flying on that ship. You do not mistake an American ship for a foreign one when our flag is flying.
So, and we can spend the rest of the time talking about the specifics of the U.S. Liberty attack, or you can actually go look at the naval investigations that were done, multiple naval investigations that were done. The reality is that people were flying Mirage planes for the Israeli military at the time. The USS Liberty was sailing in an area where it had essentially gone off-grid. The Israeli military mistook it for an Egyptian ship. They thought it was shelling Al Arish, which happened not to be true. In the initial attack, the American flag was knocked down, and then the attack went on for about 90 minutes. And then, as soon, you can hear this, by the way, on the tapes of the Israeli pilots talking to to each other. As soon as they realize that it's an American ship, they call off the attack, they speed a ship to try and help the USS Liberty. There have been
Moe, do you recall the ship coming to help you?
Nobody came to help us. We did, he went on with this 90-minute thing. I told you we had a strafing of the jets, which was 20 or 30 minutes. And then we had a 20-minute lull. Then we had the torpedo attack. And then the rest was us trying to survive afterwards. And we waited 19 hours for help to come and help us from the U.S. government. We waited 19 hours, not help us on the way. But this makes me want to throw up. It's as bad as anything I've heard. I commend this young man. What I'd like to really say here is that the upside to all this, and there is an upside to it. This young man had the balls to get up there and face that crowd and face his peers, his fellow students, his whatever. And because they want, I don't even care what their political agenda is, because I have one of my own, and I'm happy with it right now. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But anyway, they have their own agendas and so forth, but they just want to know the truth. They want to know what's going on or what happened and all these causes that brings all this on. And one of the things that I say very clearly, in my opinion, the second you're born, I don't know what you called it, Peter, but it's in the Middle East. The second you're born in the Middle East, you're taught to hate from day one you're born. I don't care if it's Israel, if it's Syria, if it's Jordan, if it's Iran, if it's whatever. You're taught to hate. And if that's the case, let them kill each other. Let them shoot each other. Let them wipe each other off the map. We don't have any business in all that stuff over there or whatever, and let them go. But I go back again. I got a lot of Jewish friends, and I don't blame it on the Jews. I blame it on the consequences of the wars and things that go on, and the
It's the Zionists.
the greed of President Lyndon Johnson to conquer and whatever. So you asked me earlier who I hold responsible. I hold them both responsible, but I certainly hold the guy that's covered this up for 58 years and kept the government covering this up. It's the largest cover up in the history of our government. And back to what would I like out of this? I want the story to be told, but I think we deserve a real legal congressional investigation. Now, I don't think that'll ever happen, but what I believe is going to happen, and I'm going to say is our current president had the nerve to leave regular media and go get on podcasts and go get on other media and go do on other things. And that's why he won. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't care what you think. He won the election by going to the people that listen, that want to know the truth or know whatever's going on. And Phil Turney got the blessings of Candace Owens reading his letter that he sent to her.
Oh, yeah.
And got her to put us on the air. And then I've done several podcasts too. I've done a couple I'm not happy with. I did it with Stu Peters, and that was not good. And at the time, it wasn't bad for me. I didn't know what his agenda was. You know, we need to do our due diligence too and understand who we're talking to, because we want to get the message to everybody that just wants to know the truth about the USS Liberty, not the agenda of a country or a political thing or whatever. The truth about the story itself, and it needs to be uncovered. And so, is that my mission? Yeah, and I tell your viewers that just Google USS Liberty.org, O-R-G. Just Google that. Find out some stuff. Go on to Rumble, okay? Because for free on Rumble, you can you can search the word sacrificing liberty. Sacrificing Liberty. That's a documentary that's 4 hours and something on our story. It's told by the crew. It's there. It's free for you to watch. It's like a Netflix. It's done with the same quality of a Netflix documentary. It's very well done, but it's the crew. Again, it's that box we were on with all these 294 people in different rooms and different places, and 20 or so of them are telling their story. The whole story has the exact same ending. The exact same endings. We were deliberately attacked, meant to die that day and never be heard of again in history. And and I tell people, why did I survive? I had young guys on there that were married with babies and all that stuff. And here I'm a 20-year-old single kid. But my brother was on the Saratoga, Jen, and he was killed the year before. So my mother had lost her only other son, and I believe God spared me for my mother that day, But there's a lot of suffering today that you couldn't imagine if you watch that Sacrificing Liberty, watching some of the crewmen who. How blessed am I? I'm a successful businessman. I've made my life with or without the Liberty. I live it every day. I'm not, Phil Turney does nothing but live the Liberty. I live my life, but I volunteer to be the executive director of the Liberty Veterans Association. My wife runs the ship's store. We volunteer. I make sure every newsletter. So I run all the financial management. And I'm telling you, to the podcasts that we've been on and so forth, we've been blessed with wonderful donations from your viewers and so forth. If it's $1, if it's $10, it's whatever. And we're not asking for that. It's just happening. And understand that our plight is to get to truth told, and that money is being used for those things where legal counsel's needed and other things are needed. And so if I had one message, and you may want to ask me some more questions, but one message is to all your viewers, just tell one more person about the Liberty and ask them to go and see the site or watch this podcast with me on it, or watch the one with Phil Turney in it, because I say Phil is an absolute unbelievable person. He is the biggest fighter we've ever had. He's raised the most funds for us. He lives it. He breathes it. And we all do too.
And Israel comes at him hard, like really hard. And you know what that tells me?
But yeah.
Should tell everybody. It means what he's doing is right.
What he's doing is right. And his presentation is getting so much better because he's just telling the story and so forth. But Phil will tell you he's got a lot of demons, as we all do. And we all pent up a lot of hate in us and so forth. So I've done everything in my power to eliminate the word hate and to survive. I'm 79 years old, and my injuries were so bad that I'm not able to play golf anymore. I've had 12 back operations, and I told you it took me 56 years to get my benefits, but it's just, and I'm just one of those 294. Phil's just another, and you need. It's almost worth if you get Phil and I ever involved again. Tell the rest of the story. Tell about all the other shit you've been through since then after the attack.
Yeah,
that's what we've been through in Washington. What we've been through with everything we've tried to do, standing at the mics of all the media in Washington, me standing there reading them a war crimes complaint of shooting our life rafts out of the water, and Rumsfeld's required to respond to that, and the Secretary of Navy is supposed to respond to that, and we never heard a word. Nothing. Not a thing. A war crimes report is a serious thing. We paid huge dollars for the legal, makeup of that complaint. Never to be even acknowledged that they received it.
Well,
Peter, don't make me stare at this man much longer.
All right. We'll finish it out just a little bit more.
Multiple unfortunate friendly fire incidents between Allied forces, including, for example, in the Gulf War, where U.S. forces were responsible for killing about 9 British troops during the Gulf War. It's an unfortunate reality of war, but you're not answering my question, which is, what is your broader agenda in asking the question? Because I suspect that your question is not limited to your specific ire over an incident that happened in 1967.
Who's doing the clapping?
I think we should question any foreign country's relationship with our government.
That's totally fine, but I'm just wondering why you
serve American interests.
Again, I'm perfectly fine with questioning any country's relationship with the United States. But again, I'm wondering what your motivation is in bringing up a 6-decade-old attack as though it is the #1 issue in assessing the relationship between Israel and the United States today.
Well, many problems persist to this day, but it's interesting that you say 6-decade-old incident when there are many people in this audience who were alive for that attack, as if this is something that's irrelevant.
Well, no, it's just not particularly relevant to assessing the relationship between the United States and Israel today.
I think it's very relevant, actually. I find it very, very, very relevant.
And just remember, Mo, and to everybody who's listening, yes, he is a walking, talking Jewish stereotype of the worst kind, but Ben Shapiro does it for money and for power and nothing else.
Yeah.
He knows the truth. No one gets to that level of prominence in politics and doesn't actually know what's going on.
That was twice.
Well, Lil Ben has always needed his comeuppance, and maybe we can give him a little satisfaction right now.
All right, Mo, so this is a little something that we do on this show. If the name is mentioned 3 times, we show this old clip of Ben Shapiro.
Oh, yeah, I'll teach you. Oh, yeah, I'll teach you.
Oh yes, if his name gets summoned 3 times, we have to play the clip of him losing to the speed bag.
Well,
There's one thing that
it really made me sick watching that a few minutes ago, and that's probably the 4th or 5th time I've watched that. And
Wow.
I commend that young man, but that young man is one of many who've gotten up and spoken. I remember there was one asked to Trump's son and daughter-in-law, and I'm sitting there and I never heard the answer. It was on Facebook, just a quick clip or something. But I said, it might have been my wife or somebody at that time. I says, those two sitting on the stage right now at Turning Point don't even have a clue what the USS Liberty is, and they're being asked the question. But the upside is somebody in the audience asked the question about the USS Liberty.